Hi, in this lecture I'm going to take you guys away from all of the global issues and the hunger issue, and I really want to tell you my personal story to help you to figure out, to help you to see where I come from, but then also to give you a mechanism to figure out where you fit in this story of global hunger. So I'd first like to start by talking about the phrase global philosophy. For me, when I think about hunger, and I hope that we've painted this picture for you, hunger is a global issue. It's found everywhere that people are, and we hope that we've clearly painted that picture of domestic versus international hunger. And then also, I hope that we've begun to paint a picture of how you have to take this idea of a global philosophy into the war on hunger, so that we can see things from multiple perspectives. We can begin to understand the complexity of the issues that arise. But first I want to kind of take you back to the beginning and talk to you a little bit about my own story. But I want to begin by talking through the phrase global philosophy. When I say the word global, generally people first think of a map. They think about different countries and where they are, maybe geography, if you remember back to Dr. Alexander's talk. But to me, global really more implies the platform. Global is the globe, or the earth is the place or the context in which we all live and where we exist. And that is also the context in which we have to work and to work towards alleviating hunger. This is the place. So the globe, or the idea of global, is really the context. So now I want to flip to the word philosophy. When I say that word, sometimes in my past I've used to think, philosophy, that's people sitting around and just thinking about things that I don't understand. But really what philosophy means, if you go back to the Greek word, it's the Greek word is philosophia, and what that word directly translates to is the love of wisdom. So it's this idea that you're seeking to be wise. And I think when you put the two words global philosophy together, it's the love of wisdom in a global context. And I think when we look at, or at least to me, when I look at hunger and hunger issues, it's really seeking wisdom in how to deal with those issues in this context of the earth. And that to me encapsulates kind of all of the ideas that we've been talking about in this course, is really challenging you as a student to seek wisdom, to seek multiple perspectives, to understand where you're coming from in your context, either with your expertise or with your major or with whatever career that you want, but then also seeking how you can use what you've learned in this course to help others in this global world. So when I want to talk a little bit about the word wisdom, and I think it's important when you think about wisdom to begin with the end in mind. And I'm going to play you guys a clip from a short film called The Wisdom Book. This is just a promo clip that's available online. But with this film, the filmmaker Andrew Zuckerman went around the world seeking essentially a council of elders, those people who he saw as being kind of the major players on the world stage. And he interviewed them all in a very neutral space, which is very intriguing because it really brings everyone, even though he's all over the world, into this same playing field. And I think that there's a lot to learn from what this Council of Elders talks about. So I'm going to switch gears just a second and play you guys a video, and I want you to think about what these people are saying, and also think about it in the context of this course, and how we can use wisdom, and we can use what these elders are saying in our current lives and in our current situations.
Wisdom, to me, isn't an answer anyway. Wisdom is a question. It's like your mother saying, "Where have you been to this time of night?" The question was the answer. She didn't want you to tell her.
Wisdom is about experience, which hopefully would include risk-taking and being somewhat adventurous.
It is more blessed to give than to receive, because in giving, although it doesn't seem so, you receive.
You don't stop doing things because you get old. You get old because you stop doing things.
I get sillier as I get older, so I don't know what wisdom means.
It's awfully sad that with our clever brain, capable of taking us to the moon, we seem to have lost wisdom. And that's the wisdom of the indigenous people, who would make a major decision based on how will this decision affect our people 7 generations ahead.
It's not about brains. It's not about the accumulation of knowledge. It's about being decent.
Nobody can teach me who I am. You can describe parts of me, but who I am and what I need, these are things I have to find out myself.
It's a play, isn't it? You know, you've got to get through the 3rd act. You really have. And you've got to finish as strong as you began. And if that's the proposition, then get to work.
I think the happiest way of life is to be developing or making things.
Your best work is your expression of yourself. Now, you may not be the greatest at it, but when you do it, you're the only expert in it.
You can't get to wonderful without passing through all right. You can't skip from not being able to function all the way over to running the whole show.
And if you happen to have talent, then you take that technique somewhere with your talent and you create new things. There is no way that we can escape ourselves. If I give you a recipe and I give 5 people the same recipe, I will have 5 different dishes on the table.
One of the reasons I haven't slipped into some sort of retirement is I always feel like I'm learning something new all the time.
I always thought that inspiration is for amateurs. The rest of us just show up and get to work. If you wait around for the clouds to part and a bolt of lightning to strike you in the brain, you're not going to make an awful lot of work.
If you're ever going to create a peaceful world, you're going to have to ask, what is it possible for the other fellow to do? If you believe in the law, it applies to everyone. Once you say it doesn't apply to one person or to a group of people, you're really saying, well, I don't believe in the rule of law.
When you look at conflict, no matter where it exists, what's it about? It's about difference. Difference of race, religion, or nationality. And the answer to difference is to respect it, not to fight about it.
If a sovereign does not take care of his or her people, then the international community has a responsibility to protect.
You cannot control people by fear, because their ultimate essence is constantly craving dignity, and that the human being has a need for dignity just as like water, like air.
You don't have to be rich, and you don't have to be an army. If you find yourself in a situation that needs to be changed, if you're willing to offer your life for it, you might actually get something done.
I was in the Air Force a while, and they have what they call policing the area. And that's where you looked around, and if there's anything wrong here or there, anywhere, where you took care of your own area. If everyone just takes care of their own area, then we won't have any problems.
But it's not just policing your own area, because that can turn into its own ego trip. Look at me, I'm doing something in the environment, rather than saying it's something I have to do because it's necessary.
You don't have to be a United States Senator to make a difference. Nurses make a difference. Policemen make a difference. People work with special needs children make a difference.
I don't know if political change can affect that much. The change has to be in the heart.
Love something. I think we've got to learn to love something deeply. I think it's love. It sounds sentimental as hell, but I really think it is.
I think love is the most important thing.
Life is not perfect. It never will be. You just have to make the very best of it. And you have to open your heart to what the world can show you. And sometimes it's terrifying, and sometimes it's incredibly beautiful. And I'll take both. Thanks.
So now that we've seen the video of the Council of Elders, I'd like to take a moment and focus on several of the key quotes that meant a lot to me personally as I saw the video and really tried to digest what they were saying about wisdom. First, I'd like to start off with the Frank Gehry quote, where he said, your best work is your expression of yourself, and although you might not be great at it, when you do it, you're the only expert. And so I'd like to take a moment and talk to you about my own personal testimony and my own story of how I got involved with the war on hunger and how different aspects of my life kind of play into how I see the world and what affects me as I walk through this journey. And the hope of telling you this testimony is to really draw out in you some inspiration so that you can begin to see the fabric of your life kind of all coming together, and that parts that might seem really disparate actually can fit together quite nicely and can really help you build your own story. So I'd first like to start off by just telling you a little bit about my family. This is a picture of my parents. They'd probably be mad at me if I left this picture up on the internet too long, so we'll flip to this one. But my dad is a Southern Baptist minister, and my mom is a rock and roll drummer. And a big part of my identity has been through growing up under their marriage. For me, my parents, with my dad being a minister, a lot of people make a lot of assumptions about our family, and then they find out that my mom's a rock and roll drummer and wears leather pants and plays the drums at church on Sunday. And a lot of people think that, wow, that totally doesn't make sense. And part of their marriage dynamic has been that my dad really allowed my mom to be who she was, and my mom allowed my dad to be who he was, and to really fully express that personhood. And that's the environment that I grew up in. And so me and my little brother, aren't we so cute, really grew up feeling the ability to become fully who we were as individuals. We didn't have to fit into whatever stereotype our parents' vocation put us in, or our school system put us in, but we were truly allowed to really become who we were meant to be. So now I want to kind of fast forward a good 20-something years and talk to you a little bit about my educational background, because I have quite a unique circumstance. I first started off at Clemson University. I came there to do a Bachelor of Science in Biochemistry and then also a Bachelor in Fine Arts with a focus in painting. With those two degrees, which kind of like my parents, don't really make a whole lot of sense together, but were really a true expression of who I was as a person. For me, biochemistry allowed me to get into the nitty-gritty details, to understand the genetics behind how a plant metabolizes certain chemicals, or how when I eat a candy bar, or if I eat some crackers, what exactly happens in my body on a extremely small molecular level. And then my art kind of allowed me to get this more macrocosmic view where I could see, okay, I understand all these intimate details, but what's the big picture? And so fully kind of trying to develop both sides of that part of myself, I really tried to play up this idea of I want to get down to the molecular level, but then I also want to understand what all of those molecules kind of working together means. And for me, going to Clemson and going through that experience really helped me to develop the ability to get into the weeds, but then to also continually pull back and process things as a complete picture. So after Clemson, I originally thought I was going to go to medical school, but those hopes were quickly dashed when I had an epiphany at graduation that I actually did not want to be a medical doctor. So I moved to Washington, D.C. to go and find myself, and worked in D.C. for a few years. And in Washington, I really discovered a passion for people, a passion for working towards something that's bigger than myself. And so I decided after a couple years there to move to Auburn and to try to go back to school. And go to school I did. I tend to be one of those students that just really loves school. I love learning. And when I found out that I could come to Auburn and collect college degrees, I thought that was a really great idea. And so I came here and I got my Master's of Science in Consumer Affairs. And really the focus was in the fashion industry. I thought for a little bit maybe I would be a fashion designer. But what that degree actually exposed me to was the entire textile and industrial complex, textile and apparel industrial complex. And as I learned about that industry, I really learned about what kind of environmental problems came out of the industry. I learned about some of the unethical business practices that some apparel companies engage in. But then I was also exposed to a whole range of companies that were really trying to transform the industry from one that was harmful and hurtful to one that was restorative, and one that and to actually make clothing and apparel items that helped people instead of harmed them. I also at the same time realized that I needed to, if I really wanted to make an impact in this industry, that I needed to get a business background, because one of the things I learned in DC is that business is, well, for me at the time was like a foreign language, and so I needed to go to school to learn the language of business, because I felt as an individual that would make me a lot more effective in my ability to influence the industry in a positive way. And then some key mentors in my life, particularly those here in the College of Human Sciences at Auburn, told me that I should really think about getting my doctorate. And so this is actually a picture of me and my dad at graduation getting my doctorate, which was a very engaging process for me, because it was the first time I really got to study something that I set out to learn and to get something and to really teach myself something new. And what I focused on in my PhD is the idea of sustainable enterprises and using marketing and kind of my business background to influence people who were trying to do good things for the world and help them to tell their message in a better way. During the PhD process, I want to flip a little bit and go to the quote by Bernice Johnson Reagon, where she said, you know, if you're willing to give your life for something, you might actually get something done. And during my PhD years, I discovered that there were many orphans in the world, millions and millions. And I really got convicted that I should do something about that problem. And to try to make a difference. And at first I thought, well, I'll just, you know, sponsor a child, and I will, you know, maybe support an orphanage. And then I really, as I kind of learned more about the number of orphans in the world and the destitute poverty that a lot of them grow up in, I really got convicted that I should be willing to sacrifice my life for this problem that I saw. And have since adopted now 2 children from Africa. And I just want to show you their pictures, A, because I have some of the cutest kids ever, but B, to just show you how you can see something and feel like you need to make a difference in it, and it can actually become part of your life. So these are my kids. This is Caleb, and this is Ephraim.